Would say fuck OD, but that's my boy. You feel me? I'm from there. You know? What? Whole block.
This moment right here is when some peeps say Chief Keef crossed the line that took him from O-Block resident to public enemy #1. They say this incident was what made it impossible for him to ever show up in the hood. I hear you, and trust me, I know the gravity of an O-Blockian talking crap on OD's name, but you must know that this was in June of 2014. And before that, there had been a lot of disrespect from Keef to O-Block. A lot of lines he'd been crossing that would have made him a dead man in Parkway Gardens if he'd ever chosen to show up. So if you want to know why Chief Keef stays away from O-Block, stay with me, cause it's in layers. And as you'd expect, 12 is involved. Truth is, Keef's exile from his birthplace started from a betrayal, not to the dead, but to the living. And no, I ain't talking about what he did to Dirk, not yet. I'm talking about what he did, or better still, what he didn't do for Trey 5.
So we say our homie booked the shit, his bond 25,000. We got 18,000, we need 75 more hundred, right? So the nigga said, he said, oh yeah, that's all y'all need, ooh. I just spent that shit on shoes, ooh. Right. Why you say it like that though?
Say what you will about what you want. What Keef did here looked pretty low. And homie of his from his clan needed to be bonded out. And not only did Keef not help, he was trolling his block, flexing on them and leading them on and shit. And this came right after Keef had signed a $6 million deal with Interscope. So what they were asking for was less than chicken change. It was nothing to Keef. So Keef immediately became a target after that incident from members of his own clan. They were now just waiting for him to be caught lacking. But hey, you probably wondering why the homie moved like that. Like what would make him so pressed to the point that he would, just out of nowhere, act crazy to his own people? Was he always like that? Did money change him? Or was it just something else entirely? Well, I'd say it's probably a combination of all three, but you also got to consider that Keef at the time was grieving. On the 7th of January of that same year, 2013, Chief Keef's stepbrother, Chris, had been the victim of a shooting that left him dead. When they were much younger, no one could tell that they were stepbrothers because of how close they were. But as time went on, they drifted apart. But even with that, the effect must have been something on him, because it wouldn't be the first or the last time Keef would lose someone he considered blood. But it wasn't just the loss that made the Chicago native so unpredictable. He was also a problem for 12. As far back as 2011, when the homie was just 15, he was apprehended on charges of heroin manufacture and distribution. But if that wasn't bad enough, by the time he was 16, Chief Keef would shoot at 2 policemen who stopped him for a search, cause they felt he was concealing a weapon while on a visit to his grandma. Turned out, they was right. And although the officers chased the rapper and shot back at home, luckily for Chief Keef, they missed. When they caught and arrested him, Keef got 3 counts of aggravated assault dropped on his ass and he was given house arrest. But that didn't stop Keef from being active on the streets, even if it was by proxy.
Ms. Russell, let me ask you first, certainly sorry for your loss, my first time having a chance to talk to you, but who do you think is responsible for your son's death?
Chief Keef.
You believe he himself pulled the trigger?
I don't believe himself pulled the trigger. I believe he paid somebody to do it.
The woman you just saw is Lil JoJo's mother. And if that name don't ring a bell, well, it's a long story. Y'all know that the track I Don't Like was what put Keef on the map, and in turn, brought a wave of attention back to the Chicago hip-hop scene. Well, Chief Keef is Black Disciple, and Lil JoJo was from a rival gang called Gangster Disciple. And in a really twisted beef that had no business turning bloody, JoJo took Keef's breakout song, turned its lyrics upside down, and made it into a diss song targeted at all BDs. It was a dumb move, all right, but was it worth his life? You tell me. Long story short, JoJo got shot for it, and Chief Keef became a prime suspect because of this tweet that he put up mere moments after JoJo's death. It's since been deleted, and Keef swears his account was hacked. But hey, who knows, right? This was September 2012, but the demon in Keef was just getting started, and neither success nor fame was stopping him from going on a rampage. A few weeks later, Chief Keef would find himself in juvie for violating parole. He had gone to a shooting range, and 12 got a hand on the footage. Man was living his life like he was in GTA or something, and every time he got caught doing something that should have seen him disappear in a jail cell, 12 was giving him a slap on the wrist. What was that? By March 2013, Keef was cleared of those charges and declared a free man after just spending 3 months in custody. This should have been a fresh start for him. But if you check Chief Keef's records throughout 2013, it was one violation after the other. from speeding to drugs to lawsuits. Keef was a Chirac savage through and through, but this was gonna come with consequences. Consequences that y'all gonna realize as this video progresses. Now back on the streets, no one gave an actual fuck what Keef was going through with 12, and you can't blame them. They also had their own problems. And with the way the rapper was moving on them, he had become one of those problems, so it was a question of how to catch Sosa lacking. Well, the opportunity presented itself on May 28, 2013, at a Glow Gang collabo concert with OTF and Mubu. Mid-performance, O-Block homies pounce on the stage and a fight ensues in the heat of it. Thankfully, no one got hurt, but one of Keef's homies, Ball Out, got his chain snatched. But here's where shit gets crazy. The chain that got snatched from Keef's boy was originally snatched from everyone's favorite clown, Soulja Boy. But regardless of where Ball Out got this chain, him and Glow Gang still felt some type of way. Chief Keef felt some type of way. I mean, people he thought was his homies just jumped and robbed him. So after the fight, a few niggas went backstage, and according to Mubu Crump, some niggas pressed Lil Durk because they thought he had something to do with it. It was after this event that Lil Durk got his own bond event with Keef. The police had arrested Durk after he allegedly threw a loaded .40 caliber handgun into his car when they approached him on South Green Street in Chicago. He was charged with unlawful use of a weapon by a felon and was held on a $100,000 bond. Keef didn't help him in any way, and it's unsure if they even asked for his help, especially after how he kept them floating with Trey 5. But word on the street was that Durk and his homies struggled to get the 10 bands, but eventually they did get it. And when they did, homies from OTF made it clear that they were the ones who did it without outside help from you-know-who. Durk himself would get in on the bants, calling Chief Keef a bitch because of his refusal to bail his own homies out. Then he went a step further to say he was prepared to turn things ugly real quick. However, he also ruled out any potential murder case because they was both 300. Essentially, if Chief Keef wasn't 300, he would have been past tense a long time. But trust Keef. Trust the nigga to always say something. Chief Keef responded by laughing at their beef and telling Durk that he got a squad full of killers. Then he taunted Lil Durk a lil, further saying that same 10K bail money Durk and his homies was struggling for, he spent on a 4-wheeler. I mean, this shit ain't even a real whip. Okay, so this shit got everybody divided. We had some old block niggas trying to rationalize Keef's bad behavior. Of course, there was his GBE that was also 300, but were on his side. However, much of old block had turned on Keef at this point. The ones who didn't say nothing were mostly OGs who wanted to stay neutral. To them, it was domestic beef. And they might have been right, because 3 months later, we got Durk going on in an interview about squashing the beef with Sosa. But after about 3 months of beefing, Lil Durk came out and said they squashed it.
Y'all was beefing, or there was rumor that you guys were beefing?
Who?
You and Chief and all them?
That was light, man. That wasn't none.
So y'all been squashed that out?
Yeah, we been.
Now I saw you said that you guys got on FaceTime and hashed everything out.
Yeah.
Now, if the story ended here, the video wouldn't make sense. So of course Durk was capping. About squashing the beef, I don't know if they really got on FaceTime to talk. Even if Durk felt like the beef was squashed, he wasn't speaking for Keef, and he sure as hell wasn't speaking for homies in the O. They would go online warning Keef not to come back to the block, because if he did, they were sure gonna rob him, and most definitely beat his ass up. Meanwhile, Durk and Keef was at it again on the Bird app, slugging it out with Durk accusing him of not putting in the work for homies on the block, didn't buy them guns or do nothing. Now I know how most of y'all probably feel about this. Y'all would say, why the hell would Chief Keef, who was already a multi-millionaire at that time, involve himself in that kind of shit when it could be the one thing that'd finally get him permanently behind bars? I know you say that Keef was right. He was protecting himself. And I agree with you. Fam, I even agree with Keef. But there was a problem everyone was refusing to see. A problem everyone was playing deaf and blind to. Chief Keef was profiting off his own homies' drama on the streets. Sure, he was once a part of it and had a legitimate claim to the smoke, including all of that madness in his music. But it is one thing to use existing beef for art. And it is a whole other ball game to stoke the flames of existing beef. Because while Keef had left O-Block physically, he still kept bringing drama for them with the disses in his tracks against ops they all shared. It's like, why we gotta share in the beef if you're not gonna part with some bread? You feel me? Well, it was about to get even more ugly. I don't know if y'all still remember the beef Durk had with Tyga and The Game back in 2014. Well, I almost forgot too. Keef went and got on track with the two and even supported them on his gram and Twitter. But what really did him in for Durk was the fact that Keef featured on a track where Game dissed Durk saying, "You heard of Durk? Nigga, hell nah." Then to pour fuel on the flames, Chief Keef would hop on his gram once again saying he wasn't from Chicago no more, he's from Chicago. a wordplay he'd gotten from the Glow gang he created. At this point, even Lil Reese, who'd been on the sidelines keeping it neutral, had to step in to hold it down between the two. But it didn't work because Keef was not letting down, so Durk decided to return the favor. He linked up with Chief Keef's #1 op, the Migos. Durk then took it a step further, bringing the Migos through to O Block to shoot a music video. Take that and couple it with some sneak diss tweet and lyrics where he made mention of the chain snatching incident with Boss Top. Heard some rappers from my way, they got they chain snatched, trying to pay my nigga Top to get their chain back. Needless to say, Durk was ready for some maximum disrespect if there was any coming. Well, there was, and he got it. In fact, it was at this moment that Chief Keef officially crossed the line. It began and ended with this video that Keef posted to his grandma.
Would say fuck OD, but that's my boy. You feel me? I'm from there. You know? What? O Block. Okay.
This was the line that Keef crossed. This was the kind of bullshit that got Lil Jojo killed. But he was an op. Keef was 300 in O Block, and now he was dissing the very person the block was named after. This activity was so wild when it came out that it even got Lil Reese stressing on Twitter. And you know that homie never stresses. Sure enough, homies on the street were outrightly warning Keef that he was a dead man if he ever came to the block. But hey, wait a minute. There were events that could kind of justify why Chief Keef would cross the line and say that kind of shit. And this time, it had to do with a betrayal from the other side of the fence. A betrayal from an O Block savage Keef trusted with his life.
Billy, why every time we see you out here, you got this same burger?
Subjugate the shirt. Never take the shirt off. Billy.
Y'all remember this video from way back when? This was when Boss Top still worshipped Keef, but he would go from this to snatching Keef's chain. And that's what Durk would reveal in the lyrics I read out a couple of minutes ago. And it's crazy cause when things were going south between O Block and Sosa, Boss Top was one of the only Keef thought he could trust. Turns out he was wrong, dead wrong, because not only did Boss Top snatch his chain, he had also violated his peace and sanity little earlier. In fact, I wouldn't be wrong to say that Boss Top was one of the prime reasons there are many ways to look at what went down. But one of my favorites has to do with Chief Keef's manager and how he called the police because of home intruders who came to steal and shoot up Chief Keef's place. He might have kind of saved Chief Keef's life, but the rapper didn't appreciate and went on Twitter calling his manager a soft-ass nigga. However, it was the police that let the world know through documents that Boss Top and a couple of O-Blockians were the culprits behind the whole attack. And it's so crazy because they classified the entire event as both a home invasion and attempted murder. There were even reports that someone got shot and was brought to the ICU.
Early this morning at the home of possibly Keef's manager, they and the North Regional Major Crimes Task Force now investigating at this Northfield home. Police say it is unclear where the shooting took place, and we're hearing that maybe Chief Keef also rents this house.
And this is where there was something of a little twist in the sequence of events, because the day after the incident went down, Chief Keef tweeted, "Alright, Boss Top." He deleted it though, but people had already seen it, and many of Keef's supporters interpreted it as Chief Keef saying Boss Top was dead to him. However, the truth was that Boss Top had invaded his home, and Keef had responded with gunshots that he was probably sure had hit Boss Top. And in a moment of emotional rage, he sent out that tweet. Not the most logical thing to do, but the man was battling emotions, not logic. His homie had betrayed him. In that same leaked police report, there was the revelation that Boss Top and his crew had stolen Chief Keef's car, and it would be Chief Keef himself that would later reveal that Boss Top had also stolen a bunch of designer bags and expensive clothes. However, where Boss Top possibly crossed the line for Keef was probably the fact that he also robbed Keef's toddler daughter. Boss Top had gone into her room and stolen her clothes, some detergent, and deodorant. Now, as you would expect, Boss Top responded to the whole issue by doubling down. The chain snatcher went on the gram and posted a pic with a gun saying, "Fuck GBE, slide on me, see what's up." He was basically warning Chief Keef to steer clear of O Block if he loved his life. After that, he trolled his former friend on Twitter before dropping a music video where he flexed Chief Keef's stolen chain, then linked up with the Migos while wearing it. It was just insult after insult after injury. But Chief Keef wasn't the one who got buried by the whole event. Funny enough, this whole issue was what put a permanent end to Boss Top's career. His decision to rob Keef's toddler daughter was too much even for his own fans. And soon after the incident, you got both his ops and his own fans renaming him Broke Top and the Diaper Bandit. And to add more concrete on the rubble, Boss Top couldn't even keep the chain because it got snatched by FBG decks. It was the last blow on his career, kinda like God was on Chief Keef's side. And no matter how much you came for him, no matter the sin he was guilty of or you accused him of being guilty of, the Chicago rapper could never stop winning. However, this series of events marked the end of Chief Keef's stay in O Block. The homie never returned. To this day, he hasn't. King Von acknowledged these events in this tweet at the time. Although although he didn't say nothing when Boss Top got the same chain snatched from him. Von was always somewhere in the fringe of things like Reese, not saying too much, but making it known that he didn't agree to Chief Keef's take on things, and if you was not in the know, you would think this is probably why, when Von got shot dead, Keef didn't say nothing. No RIP, no respect to Von's name, nothing. Well, the truth is Von had also robbed Chief Keef.
Von robbed Sosa for 2 guns. He took 2 guns from him. And so after you do that to a man, ain't nobody gonna trust you no more.
And this happened before I Don't Like, way before Chief Keef became Chief Keef, before he was rich and famous. Needless to say, Keef never forgave and he never forgot. It gets crazier when you realize that Dirk and Keef eventually squashed the beef. It ain't like they are homies or nothing, but they ain't going back and forth on each other like they was doing in 13 or even 14 and 15. So with beef squashed, why has Keef still not gone back? It's almost 10 years now. Well, the answer is pretty simple actually, and it has to do with 12.
Hands on the wheel. So you know, we're on audio and videotape right now. You know why I'm stopping you today? That for it. Correct, I got you going 110. Driver's license, insurance, please.
This is dash cam footage of the time. Keef got pulled over by the cops for excessive speeding back in 2015. At the time, Keef was on a permit, had no driver's license, and was probably high. He wouldn't get into too much trouble for these events in particular, but you gotta know that it was stacking up, because after the whole Boss Top home invasion thing, he became kind of persona non grata in the state, and it would bleed into other states he went to. What I'm saying is that while O'Blockians might have exiled him, he was also on a sort of arrest on sight list with 12. In other words, he couldn't return to Chicago even if he wanted to. Yeah, it's crazy when you think of it, even crazier when you hear it said so officially.
Chicago has banned a rapper by the name Chief Keef, and apparently Rahm Emanuel, who is the mayor of Chicago, is not a huge fan of Chief Keef because of his criminal record. Now, not only is he banned in Chicago, he seems to be banned in the entire state of Illinois.
What's crazy is the backstory that made it official was actually the drive-by shooting that took his homie, Capo's life, and the life of a 13-month-old kid named Dylan Harris. This was on the 11th of July, 2015. By this time, Keef was already out of Chicago. All of the events we talked about in this video had already happened. And since Capo was a longtime associate of his Glow Gang label, it only made sense that Keef would want to pay his respects. And maybe he would have. But things had gotten complicated with the accidental death of this baby who was struck by the getaway driver of the drive-by. See, Capo might have been in the thick of it, but the kid was obviously innocent. And unsurprisingly, there was outrage. So Chief Keef decided he would hold a free benefit concert as a tribute to Capo while encouraging concert goers to donate to the baby's family. He also planned to announce a foundation that would fight against gun violence in Chicago. So the plan was to run everything remotely from a soundstage in Beverly Hills that would become a hologram of him in Shaytown. But the mayor of Chicago banned it. Local police stopped the performance and they shut the generators supplying the hologram power. Of course, there was a lot of outrage to go around. And of course, people felt that the mayor was overstepping legal boundaries with his decision. But no one was going to contest, especially not Keef, because he had outstanding warrants for his arrest in the state. For him, this was all the justification he needed to finally let go of the city and block he once called home, a block where he found incredible fame at a very young age. But he wasn't alone. Funny enough, Dirk too would leave O-Block never to return. And for the OGs in the game, they'd tell you it's the right decision. The mere fact that Chief Keef survived a block that long is a miracle, and I don't think he's ready to test his luck once more.